How a Narcissist Develops. So Drew Weston in 2008 proposed that there are 3 subtypes of narcissists. What I'm going to do is explain to you what those are, so it helps you decipher which one that you've been on receiving end of the most, or which one that you recognise the most as being something that's been around in your life. So the first one is the grandiose, the malignant narcissist. Okay, this is the one that is the most obvious. This is the one where we notice this behaviour in the most obvious of ways. So how does it show? Well, that is the anger, the very clear manipulation. There is a thirst for power. So power doesn't necessarily mean climbing to the top of the tree in a work environment. It can be power in families, it can be power in friendships, but there is a thirst for power. And there is an exaggerated sense of self-importance. So it's an obvious focus of the I. I am the most relevant person. I'm the one whose needs need to be satisfied. I'm the one that if I rage or rant the loudest, I'm going to be the one who has the attention. So that's how we can perhaps recognize the grandiose or the malignant narcissist. So this one is particularly mean, and it's really quite nasty. Okay, it's very obvious, but at the same time, even though it's quite mean and nasty, it still has the ability to suck you in and keep you there. Now this is what we perhaps associate a little bit more around standout abuse, where we really can recognize and see that very clearly. And the second one is the fragile narcissist, okay? And that one is a little bit more subtle, okay? More subtle than the grandiose. So the fragile narcissist, how do they show who they are? Well, the grandiosity is used as a defense strategy to hide feelings of inadequacy, their anxiety and loneliness. So they will project this sense of self-importance in order to hide the fact that they struggle with feelings of inadequacy, anxiety and loneliness. So they will make themselves seem more important than they actually feel, and they'll do whatever they can to defend this. So quite often when you feel abandonment and someone doesn't care and they seem to have switched off their feelings as far as that's concerned, quite often you're dealing with a fragile narcissist. So what they've done is shut out anything to do with any feelings that are going to have to be things that they recognise. They have to be right, they have to be important, and so therefore they'll just switch you off as something that's unimportant. But it's the ways and means, in actual fact, of hiding their own feelings of inadequacy and anxiety and their deep feeling of loneliness. These are all things that you'll never get them to admit, they'll never access, and if you ever try to get them to properly admit any of this, they will turn the tables on you and they will punish you. Okay, they will punish you because you made them access feelings that they don't want to know about, and they never want to know about. So quite often you see this kind of behavior around people who are extremely avoidant, emotionally unavailable, and really not there, because this is the ways and means of them hiding their own feelings. And then the next one is the high-functioning exhibitionist narcissist. Okay, so the one that is the one that is engaging, that's charming, that can put on this show of all kinds of things that seem extremely alluring and very charismatic. So there is a strong sense with these that they have a strong self-importance, they feel very important and often find themselves in important positions. So this is quite often the wordings of, well, don't you know who I am? Really? You don't know who I am? Oh, this is completely unacceptable. They're very articulate. So these are the ones that you get particularly tongue-tied around, because they seem to have this quick fire back way of putting you down or making you feel like a really shameful, badly behaved child or something. So these are the ones that often sensitives are the most scared of, because it feels very they fill the room with this charming elegance of expression and ways of articulating things, and this strong sense of self-importance. So this particular narcissist is really, really great at getting you to that place of feeling your own sense of smallness. So quite often you feel quite small around this particular type of narcissist. So they're very articulate, energetic, very outgoing, seem to be the expression of everything that someone would want to be. Okay, so this is how they'll show these behaviours. Now, the question may be, well, can someone have all of these types? Can they have the different characters at different times? You know, maybe they're the fragile narcissist in one set of circumstance, and maybe they're a high-functioning exhibitionist narcissist in another circumstance, and maybe they're the grandiose and manipulative one in private. Yes, I do believe that you can have all these subtypes in the one person, but this is just ways and means of separating them, so it gives you a clearer indication as to when and how you can recognize these behaviors. So how does this behavior develop? You know, why are they one? Where does it come from? Well, we all have a healthy level of narcissistic traits. You know, we all should have a healthy level of them, but these are situations where it's become pathological, or it's gone beyond something that is a healthy line of narcissistic traits, which we develop as human beings as a ways and means of experiencing our own identity, but also self-preservation. So how does this become something that's unsavory? How does this behaviour develop? So if we put the biological reasons aside, okay, so what are those? If we put those aside, what are they? So if someone has a highly developed malignant narcissism, as in a psychopathic brain, and there are clear indications that people who have a psychopathic brain, as in much more of the antisocial personality disorder, that kind of high level of malignant narcissism, they have a different brain setup. So their brain is shaped differently in terms of their empathic skills are concerned, and how they need stimulation. So put that aside. There are two reasons that can explain narcissistic behaviour. Okay, now number one, that narcissism is a fear. It's an avoidance fear. Okay. So it's an avoidance fear, especially of fear. What does that mean? Well, narcissism is an elaborate way of hiding an extremely strong fear of failure. Okay, it's a very elaborate way of hiding this really very, very strong fear of failure. And the second one is, narcissistic traits develop in childhood due to bad parenting. So it's one or the other, as in how these narcissistic traits develop. So one is that there's an extreme fear of failure. And that can be for some people because, let's say they've had an early foundation that has been quite testing or got to live up to certain expectations, etc., then someone will perhaps develop the strong narcissistic traits in order to hide that. So to hide that sense of inadequacy and that there is any possibility of failure. But the second one, in terms of narcissistic traits that develop in childhood, and they will develop in childhood due to bad parenting. So to explain that, how does that happen? Okay, so how does that happen? In many circumstances, it could be, well, in actual fact, a narcissist that maybe have got delightful parents. You've got lovely parents. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't match. Well, maybe that's because that particular person does have some of those biological differences. So let's say perhaps they've actually got a psychopathic brain. Okay, so that's putting that aside. But in terms of the bad parenting, if we look at that specifically, narcissism will develop if a person, or in circumstances where a person has been neglected in their early childhood. What happens as far as that's concerned? Well, feeling neglected in early childhood means that you have a shame, that there is a shame that develops. And that shame has two choices. Okay, it has two choices to express itself. Become socially withdrawn, so withdraw as far as that's concerned, or use it as a defense mechanism. So use that shame as a defense mechanism. So becoming narcissistic hides the shame by becoming superior. Okay, so they become superior in as a ways and means of hiding that shame, and they will hide that shame at all costs. So should this reasoning make us feel sorry for the narcissist? Right now, you'll start the process of feeling your unknown shame. Okay, you'll start to feel worried about exposure. You'll probably feel distracted, uncomfortable, starting to feel that about your own shame, going, I wonder what that is all about. Why? Because you're starting the process of leveraging to the surface the unhealed parts of the narcissistic energy that you've been on the receiving end of, or that you haven't yet recognized for you as an intuitive, sensitive person, that you've been attractive to the narcissist. Why? Because you have those high levels of empathy that they're attracted to, to be able to utilize as far as that shame is concerned. You also have the wounds from your own past that they sniff out. They are absolutely brilliant at sniffing out people's old wounds. Those wounds declare that you're not good enough. Okay, so those wounds work well with their superior because you bring those up as your feelings of inferior. Okay, so those wounds declare that you're not good enough. They are the wounds that make you people please, okay, and rescue. And those wounds make you people please and rescue the ungrateful. Those wounds allow you to feel that you have to help someone else solve whatever their world is, whatever their drama is, and that somehow or another you are hugely responsible for that. So before you go deeper into this, you'll need to feel more worthy, okay, of releasing the stored shame. So feeling that you are worthy of releasing your own stored shame, that you don't actually need to carry it, and that part of your recovery process, and certainly your recovery process, that you don't have to involve yourself with or find that narcissists are attracted to you, is that you release the stored shame, because then they've got nothing to hook into. Now, otherwise, if you are not in that position of where you don't start to allow yourself to feel worthy of releasing the stored shame, or before you go into worrying, well, maybe I'm a narcissist because I come from this kind of background or that background, and then panic that somehow or another maybe actually you're a narcissist. No, you're not. Because if you were, you certainly wouldn't be listening to me, because the shame part wouldn't be something that you would even vaguely look to explore. But if you don't allow yourself to start finding that, you'll find excuses, okay, not to continue, to be too busy, too frightened, or find you want things like disruptive food. This is the ways and means that we use to distract ourselves from releasing some of these old things that we know we don't need, and that those old feelings are centered around shame. Okay, so unless you start to think that you're actually worthy of releasing that, doesn't mean to say that you have to do it, because it takes a while, it takes some time, but this is a case of you starting to feel that you actually are worthy, okay, that you are worthy of releasing that stored shame. Otherwise, as I say, you'll find excuses not to continue, that you're too busy, too frightened, or, as I say, you want to find disruptive food. And we're all pretty good at that, especially as an intuitive sensitive. We're very good at finding disruptive food. Why? Because you're worried that it will hurt more to continue than to stop. Okay? You're worried that somehow or another it's going to hurt you more to continue than to stop. In fact, the opposite is true. If though you really do want to be free of feeling the pain of narcissistic personalities and how some of those have impacted your life, then to free yourself of that edgy feeling, the pain sometimes of people pleasing and how the lengths that you go to, how you feel tongue-tied, especially around the exhibitionist narcissist, and the exhaustion that you have from dealing with the drama that they create. Okay, they create a big part of drama, whether they are grandiose, whether they are fragile, or whether they are the exhibitionist one, because they need the stimulation. And you will find that you are exhausted from dealing with that. So to move away from that exhaustion, the worrying of who you can trust, because you have no more room for hurt, then you need to carry on to the next section. Bye for now.